Hi everybody and welcome to the kind of video that makes you stare at the ceiling and question if your grandchildren will even have knees. Tonight, you're stepping into a time machine powered only by imagination, scientific speculation, and just the right amount of late-night curiosity. You're about to witness not just history, but prehistory, deep time, and a flickering glimpse of our million-year future. You're standing barefoot on warm soil. Around you, acacia trees cast long shadows in the amber light of a setting sun. You squint against the heat, the haze, the hum of insects. And then, movement. Not lions. Not chimps. But them. Early humans. Not quite like you. Not quite not. They move with a kind of quiet grace, bones a bit heavier, brow a bit thicker. They don't have your words or your TikTok addiction. But they are you. The you from over 2 million years ago. One of them crouches, chewing a root. Another cracks a bone for marrow. Tools are scarce, language non-existent, but their eyes reflect a flicker of thought, a knowing. You crouch beside them, and for a moment, it feels normal. But your knees remind you, you're not built for this anymore. You probably won't survive this world. Not the predators. Not the hunger. Not the constant need to move. But they did. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere cozy tonight, drop your location and local time in the comments below. Let's see how far this bedtime tribe stretches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trail behind your ancestors. They're scavengers, not hunters yet. Their diet? Mostly plants, some bugs, and if they're lucky, a scrap of meat left by a lion too full to finish its kill. You step cautiously over cracked bones and animal dung. The ground beneath your feet tells stories in footprints and fossils, long-gone creatures, long-forgotten storms. The air tastes of smoke. Fire, not yet tamed, but already changing everything. A distant blaze has driven prey animals into view. Your ancestors do not yet understand how to start fire, but they fear it. Respect it. And in a few 100,000 years, they'll master it. You watch one individual, maybe a female, use a stone to smash another. Not out of violence, but out of curiosity. Tool use. Primitive, but powerful. Historians still argue whether this moment, the cracking of one rock against another, was when we truly became human. Was it the tools? The teamwork? The beginnings of memory? A baby wails. Its mother hushes it with a sound halfway between a hum and a growl. Communication, but not yet language. You realize you're seeing emotion without words, coordination without planning, community without culture. And yet, it works. The sun dips low. Night brings danger. Without shelters, these early humans huddle together, bodies pressed close, eyes wide. You hear the calls of hyenas, the distant cough of a leopard. You feel your heartbeat mimic theirs. Fast. Alert. Soft-bellied, slow-footed, without fur or claws, humans are not natural-born survivors. Not yet. But they do survive. Generation after generation. Because what they lack in claws, they make up for in something else, adaptability. It's their superpower. The ability to pivot, to shift, to learn, very slowly, but learn nonetheless. You watch it in their eyes. The pause before a decision. The testing of a new route. The choosing of a safer tree to sleep in tonight. Fringe scientists once suggested early humans may have evolved near water, even spending time wading or swimming regularly, which might explain our unique ability to sweat and our lack of body hair. It's still debated, but it's a fascinating idea. What if we were half aquatic before we ever made it to cities? You sit by a creek with them. One dips a hand in, cupping water to drink. Another finds a clam and bashes it open. It's messy, inefficient, a far cry from your kitchen faucet, but it's the beginning of sustenance, trial and error, passing down techniques. They don't have memories of the past or visions of the future. They have now. And now is dangerous. As you try to sleep under the stars, cold and vulnerable, it hits you, this moment, this brutal simplicity, is where it all begins. All your skyscrapers, your smartphones, your symphonies, they echo back to this campfireless night. To a huddle of half-hairless primates clutching each other beneath the stars, dreaming of warmth and safety they haven't invented yet. You might not survive here. But they will. And they'll carry your DNA, your instincts, your future, all the way forward. You wake up stiff, cold, and very aware that your modern spine was not designed for sleeping on rocks. The dawn light cuts through the branches above, painting streaks of gold on your dust-covered skin. Around you, the tribe begins to stir, stretching, sniffing the air, scanning the savanna for signs of danger or food. You can almost hear the unspoken checklist in their heads: where are the predators? Where is the water? What can we eat today? It's been tens of thousands of years since the events you witnessed in the last section, and the world is shifting, slowly, but relentlessly. The Ice Age has arrived. Earth's climate begins to seesaw dramatically. Glaciers creep down from the poles, swallowing forests and flattening entire landscapes. And your ancestors? They don't stay put. You trudge beside them now through bitter cold wind, your breath visible in the air. The plants are gone, replaced by frozen tundra. Game is scarce, the competition is fierce, and clothing is, well, not exactly Uniqlo. You wrap yourself in furs, trying to mimic the rough cloaks of animal hide tied around their shoulders. You smell like wet dog and campfire ash. Congratulations. You're Ice Age chic. Historians still argue whether it was climate stress or cooperation that pushed humans to evolve faster during this period. What's clear is that change was constant, and survival meant staying adaptable. You follow a small group as they migrate across what is now modern-day Europe and Asia, navigating by the stars, memory, and gut instinct. Their feet bleed from the ice. One elder walks with a limp but keeps up, driven by something primal, the need to move forward. And then comes the fire. Not just using it, but mastering it. You huddle close as one early human strikes flint against rock. A spark catches dry moss, and a flame winks to life. The others gather close, eyes wide. Not just warmth. Not just light. But control. The fire bends to them now. Around it, new rituals form: storytelling, silent staring contests with wolves, the slow cooking of meat. Their bodies begin to change. Shorter intestines, because cooked food is easier to digest. Less raw muscle, more brain. Yes, fire is evolution's cheat code, and humans just entered the game. You spot another curious change: the slow disappearance of body hair. There's debate about this, too. Some suggest it's tied to parasite control: less hair means fewer lice and ticks. Others think it's about cooling, a better sweat system for long hunts. Either way, you run a hand down your own arm and realize you're the hairless ape at the party. But fire's not the only ally. There's a different kind of heat taking over, the fire of invention. You watch as stone tools evolve from crude choppers to delicate arrowheads. A young child sharpens a point with surprising skill. This isn't just instinct anymore, it's teaching. A knowledge loop is forming. Elders pass on skills, and with every generation, humans become more efficient killers, builders, and wanderers. Then you hear something strange. Not quite words, but more than grunts. A pair of hunters are coordinating an ambush, using rhythm and tone. You catch fragments, a hand signal here, a sound pattern there. Communication is evolving. It's not full language yet, but the spark is there. Meanwhile, a group of Homo sapiens crosses paths with Neanderthals. You observe their cautious interactions. There's tension. There's curiosity. And, wait, did you just witness flirting? Yes. Interbreeding happens. In fact, modern humans today still carry traces of Neanderthal DNA. Think of it as nature's early version of genetic collaboration. Fringe theories even suggest that Neanderthals might have had musical traditions, using bone flutes or rhythmic clapping. Whether that's true or just wishful thinking, you can't help but imagine what the world sounded like back then. A lullaby hummed in the cold. A beat to scare away hyenas. The beginnings of a soundtrack to human history. You walk through these generations like a ghost, never touching, only watching. You see the small victories: a new way to trap rabbits, a better hide to shield from wind, the first cautious friendships with wolves that may one day become dogs. Each moment is a microscopic evolution, not just of the body, but of the mind. By the time this section ends, your bones ache from marching through millennia. Your fingers are numb, your clothes stink, and yet, you feel proud. These people, so far removed from modern comforts, are not primitive. They're pioneers. Survivors. Tinkerers. Each sunrise brings something new. A tiny step forward. A lesson passed down. A gene carried on. The glaciers will eventually retreat. The earth will warm again. But this icy crucible shapes humanity into something sharper, leaner, more clever. You glance at the sunrise on the frozen horizon and realize, the real fire is no longer in the hearth, it's in their eyes. You squint into a desert sun, gone are the glaciers, the frozen rivers, the icy breath. The world has warmed, the ice receded, and your ancestors have changed. You step into a more familiar body now, still tough, still lean, but less wild. The shoulders have narrowed, the teeth are smaller, the brow less sloped. Something remarkable is happening in the skull. It's ballooning. Not comically, but noticeably. The brain, that gray, wrinkled organ behind your eyes, is growing larger, more complex. And it's not for hunting. Not anymore. It's for thinking. For socializing. For storytelling. And for managing the very confusing task of living in groups larger than a small family of cave dwellers. You walk among these people, humans now in the truest sense. They're forming tribes. Small bands. Semi-nomadic, yes, but no longer completely at the mercy of nature. You notice something strange, the strongest male isn't leading. It's the cleverest. The one who can defuse arguments, organize hunts, remember where the good waterhole was 3 seasons ago. Brains are becoming power. And not just raw intelligence, but social intelligence. You feel it like a soft pressure behind the eyes, reading emotions, managing alliances, hiding lies. The mental juggling act of tribal life is intense. Historians still argue whether this social complexity was the true driving force behind our oversized brains, or just a happy accident that came with cooking meat and telling stories around the fire. You see it now, how one brain feeds off another. A child watches its mother crack open a nut with a rock and mimics the movement. The child fails. Tries again. Eventually gets it. This is more than instinct. It's learning. Teaching. And it spreads like fire on dry grass. Then comes the twist, humans begin to decorate. That's right. Paint, etch, carve. You're deep inside a cave now, and the walls are alive with animals, bison, deer, strange half-human figures. You trace your fingers over the ancient pigments and realize, this isn't about food. It's about meaning. A fringe theory suggests that early cave art may have been part of spiritual trances or rituals induced by hallucinogenic plants. You can almost hear the chanting echo off the limestone as flickering firelight dances across the painted shapes. Whether religious or just playful, these marks mean something new. Humans are no longer just surviving, they're imagining. Outside, tools grow more sophisticated. Blades are sharper. Spear tips are balanced. Clothing is stitched with bone needles. You spot one early tailor proudly adjusting a fur-lined hood on her child, and your 21st century hoodie suddenly feels less original. But here's the real kicker, with bigger brains comes self-awareness. The first graves appear, carefully buried bodies, sometimes with beads, sometimes with red ochre powder. Why would you decorate a corpse? Because you believe in something after. Or at least, you worry about what comes next. You stand over one such burial, the air thick with smoke and incense. A mother sobs quietly while the others hum or chant or simply wait in silence. Death is no longer just an end, it's a transition. And your ancestors are beginning to wrestle with the oldest question of all, why? Meanwhile, elsewhere, humans are testing boundaries. Sailing across islands in crude rafts. Following the moon. Mapping the stars with their eyes. This is where curiosity becomes dangerous. You find yourself on the edge of a cliff, watching 2 explorers debate whether that dark strip of land on the horizon is reachable by boat. Spoiler, they'll try. And eventually, they'll succeed. You share a meal with these people, roasted roots, dried fish, berries. Someone laughs. Someone sneezes. Someone sings a nonsense tune that you swear sounds like early jazz. You realize these moments, so tiny, are the sparks of civilization. Not grand inventions, not towering cities. Just small human things, sharing, arguing, teaching, playing. And the brain keeps growing. Not physically now, but in capacity. Memory lengthens. Stories grow longer. You sit through one now, a tale of a bird that stole the sun and hid it in a cave. It's absurd. And beautiful. And when it ends, no one claps, but everyone is smiling. This is how culture is born. Around fires. Through voices. And through brains willing to leap from what is to what could be. By now, your own brain feels swollen with echoes. You've seen the shift, from brute strength to brainpower, from brawling to bonding. Humanity, in this brief warm period, is learning how to be human. But with every clever innovation comes a new risk: ego, deception, jealousy. You hear one man claim a hunting trick as his own when you know it wasn't. Another gossips about someone's sick child. And there it is, our oldest software glitch: consciousness meets insecurity. The world isn't static, and neither is your species. But the biggest leap wasn't claws, or tools, or even fire. It was minds that could reflect. Minds that could dream. And as you lay beside these early thinkers, half listening to the hiss of embers, you understand that something irreversible has begun. You're walking now, not through jungle or desert, but through the soft underbrush of thought. The people around you don't just grunt or hum anymore. They talk. They argue, they joke, they whisper secrets. Language, once scattered sparks, has become a roaring fire. And you? You're standing in the warmth. One man tells another where the best berries grow. A child asks her mother why the stars move. A lover confesses something soft in the dark. Each word builds a bridge between minds. And the moment you try to join in, something curious happens: your modern accent feels heavy, clumsy. You can't quite form the sounds. The language is strange: clicks, tones, rhythm like a heartbeat. It's not English. It's not even Proto-English. But it is communication. It's enough to be understood. You sit near the center of this small group as they speak. And listen. And speak again. Their conversations ripple outward, shaping who they trust, who they follow, who they fear. Language becomes currency. The sharpest tongue holds more power than the sharpest spear. Historians still argue whether language started from gestures, mimicry, or even baby babble that slowly became complex. But regardless of its origin, you're now witnessing its golden age. With it, they can plan, deceive, make promises, and break them. Sound familiar? And then, something even more radical: stories begin to stretch across generations. You watch an elder teach a child the tale of a river god that punishes those who waste water. Is it true? Doesn't matter. What matters is that this story survives, and shapes behavior. This is when you realize that culture is evolving faster than biology. Genetics can take thousands of years to shift a trait. But a story? That can change minds in a single night. You pass a young man who tells a lie, and suddenly, the group dynamics shift. Trust erodes. A new rule is born. Don't listen to Kibbo after dark. Just like that, morality starts forming. Around you, tribes grow larger. Clusters become communities. Disagreements break out. Leadership is debated. You hear the first echoes of laws, not carved in stone, but whispered warnings: do not steal. Protect the weak. Share the fire. You blink, and you're watching the formation of identity. Names. Roles. Status. A woman walks by with red ochre smeared across her face. Another wears feathers in her hair. These aren't just decorations. They're messages. Silent signals of belonging, belief, pride. A fringe theory floats by, a soft whisper that language may have developed alongside music. That lullabies, chants, and rhythm were the true roots of syntax. You listen as two siblings invent a nonsense song while grinding grain. It loops, it rhymes, it becomes theirs. And maybe that's the real magic of language: it's not just about information. It's about bonding. But there's a cost. You overhear gossip. A rumor about someone taking more meat than they shared. The accused denies it, passionately. Voices rise. Fingers point. Emotions flare. You can almost see evolution at work, the brain sharpening not for survival in the wild, but for surviving each other. Because language doesn't just help you build, it helps you manipulate. Lie. Seduce. Intimidate. Suddenly, survival isn't just about muscles or speed, but about narrative control. And it's exhausting. You meet the tribe's storyteller, a man with wrinkles like tree bark and a voice like worn leather. He holds the group's history in his mind, floods, births, wars, migrations. He doesn't rule, but everyone listens. When he speaks, people pause mid-bite. He's a human hard drive, and everyone knows it. You wonder if he remembers the first words ever spoken. Probably not. But maybe he remembers the first time words hurt. That one phrase that changed everything. Because language is like fire, it warms, illuminates, but it also burns. You stroll with a small child learning her first words. She touches your hand and says something soft, something that could mean friend, or stranger, or maybe just you. Either way, it hits you. This is the transmission of culture, happening in real time. Language has rewired their brains. Yours too. Now, you don't just observe your surroundings, you name them. You don't just feel fear, you describe it. And through that description, somehow, it feels a little less heavy. You can't that night under a sky littered with stars. Two people argue softly beside the fire about whether the moon is a god or just a cold stone. You smile, realizing this is the birthplace of philosophy. Of wonder. Of science. All of it begins with one question: what if? That question loops through your mind as you drift to sleep. You wonder how long it will take before someone tries to record these stories, to scratch them into stone, to paint them on cave walls. You wonder when language will birth writing. But that's a story for another section. For now, you listen to the crackle of the fire, the slow cadence of speech, the heartbeat of a species learning to think aloud. And you realize, the greatest evolutionary leap wasn't growing thumbs or walking upright. It was learning to listen. You wake up to scratching. Not the soft rustle of animal paws or the whisper of a breeze, but deliberate scraping. It's the sound of digging. You rise, still half dreaming, and see a group of humans hunched over dry earth. They're pulling at stubborn roots, gathering seeds, yanking out plants with sun-leathered hands. Welcome to the agricultural revolution, where humans stop chasing food, and begin growing it. You're standing at the edge of a wheat field that barely deserves the name. The crops are short, unreliable, and demand constant attention. Still, your ancestors persist. They've chosen this life. Or maybe this life chose them. The switch from hunting-gathering to farming seems like progress. But you soon realize, it's a trap. A farm trap. You bend down beside a woman planting barley. Her fingers are blistered. Her back aches. She'll spend her entire life tending this soil. And so will her children. What was once a roaming, flexible lifestyle becomes rooted, literally. Villages form. Borders harden. Crops demand obedience. And now, so do the people. Historians still argue whether farming was a brilliant innovation or a catastrophic mistake. Yes, it allowed populations to explode. But it also introduced hierarchy, disease, and backbreaking monotony. You win bread, but you pay with freedom. You walk into one of these early settlements, just a cluster of sun-baked mud houses. A man guards a granary with a spear. A woman argues with her neighbor about water rights. You catch the scent of dried meat and resentment. For the first time, ownership exists. Land. Tools. People. You look around and see inequality blooming like a weed. The strong take more. The weak fall into labor. Someone gets to rest while others sweat. One man wears beads and speaks above others. A woman with calloused feet averts her eyes when he passes. Power has taken root. And bodies are changing, too. Your ancestors grow shorter, weaker, more fragile. With a steady food supply, there's less pressure for peak fitness. Bones become lighter, teeth more crowded. The variety of their wild diet is gone, replaced by carbs, carbs, and more carbs. If early farmers had dentists, they'd never sleep. A fringe theory suggests this dietary collapse may have led to mood disorders. You don't need a scholar to believe it, you just look at the stress on these people's faces as they argue over whose goat trampled whose millet. But farming doesn't just feed, it structures. Now there's a schedule: plant, tend, harvest, repeat. You can almost hear the ticking of a societal clock starting to form. For the first time, someone has a calendar. And with time comes waiting. You pass a boy throwing stones because there's nothing to do until the rains come. A girl sings to herself while shelling peas. Boredom, true, aching, can't escape it boredom, has been born. You almost miss the chaos of the Ice Age. Yet, not everything is bleak. You smell bread baking. You see the first attempts at pottery. A child leads a lamb on a string, giggling as it resists. There's warmth here. Community. Roots, in every sense. With stability comes surplus. And with surplus comes specialization. You meet a man who does nothing but make baskets. Another, a bone flutist. The tribe doesn't need everyone to hunt anymore. Some can invent. Paint. Play. That's new. You notice, too, the first glimpses of religion. Stones stacked into shrines. Shapes scratched into clay. Offerings left in hollows. These early farmers don't just survive, they start to ritualize. Rain isn't just weather, it's a mood of the gods. The earth isn't just soil, it's mother. You watch as a young woman places seeds on a woven mat, bows her head, and whispers to the wind. Her voice trembles, unsure. It might be the first prayer. Or the first spell. Either way, it echoes. But farming has a dark undercurrent. Crops fail. Rain skips a year. And now, unlike before, there's no backup plan. No wild roots to dig. No bison herd to chase. You feel the weight of it, the dependence. Civilization is now a gamble with the sky. One child cries as her father sacrifices their only chicken to appease something they can't name. Superstition grows. So does anxiety. Will the harvest come? Will the river flood too soon? Nature used to be a companion. Now it's a boss. Still, the system tightens. Villages become towns. You pass a primitive market, grains traded for tools, smiles traded for salt. Currency isn't minted yet, but value is being invented. A clay pot here is worth a bundle of herbs. A favor. A promise. You hear the first soft murmurs of law. A dispute over stolen beans becomes a council decision. The accused stands silently while two elders mumble a verdict. There's no jail yet, but shame will do. As night falls, you wander back to the fields. The stalks rustle in the wind, like dry applause. You lie down, staring up at stars. Same stars the hunter-gatherers saw. But now, you realize, humans no longer follow them. They mark them. Catalog them. Name them. The farm trap has closed, but inside it, a new kind of humanity is hatching. You wake to noise, more than just bird calls or distant wolves. It's the layered chaos of a city. You're not in a cozy village anymore. You're standing at the edge of something new, walls, streets, smoke rising in organized chaos. People everywhere, shouting, laughing, arguing. Welcome to early civilization. Welcome to urban life. The air smells like firewood, sweat, cooked grain, and something vaguely disgusting you choose not to investigate. You dodge a donkey cart and step aside as two barefoot children race past you, giggling in a language you don't understand. But the vibe is unmistakable, this place is alive. And also very, very loud. You realize quickly that something has shifted in the human experiment. No longer moving with the seasons or tied to a single field, people have now clustered into tight, complex systems. You're in a city, maybe Mesopotamia, maybe the Indus Valley. The name doesn't matter. The pattern does. People are now packed together in numbers far beyond what evolution prepared them for. And the effects? They're everywhere. You see marketplaces buzzing with trade, beads, spices, fabrics. You see arguments over territory. You see art, murals painted on clay walls, songs shouted from rooftops. You see order. And you see sickness. Because when you cram thousands of humans into one dusty space, sharing water, air, food, and fleas, you don't just trade stories. You trade plagues. Historians still argue whether cities were humanity's crowning achievement or slow poison. You can feel both possibilities pressing against your ribcage as you walk the streets. On one corner, a priest chants to the sky. On another, a child coughs so hard she doubles over. Progress always rides sidecar with risk. You enter a courtyard where a man is recording grain counts on a clay tablet. Writing has emerged. Not to write poems, but receipts. Bureaucracy is older than literature, it turns out. These symbols are the bones of accounting, trade, taxes. But they open a door that cannot be shut. Memory is no longer stored in brains, it's external now. Permanent. That changes everything. You follow the trail of clay symbols to a city gate and overhear a scribe reciting laws to a crowd. These aren't whispered taboos anymore. They're codified rules, if a man steals a goat. And so on. The law no longer belongs to elders. It belongs to text. It's no longer flexible. It's stone. A fringe theory proposes that writing didn't just preserve thoughts, it altered how humans thought. That the linear nature of text reshaped brains into more structured, logical patterns. You glance at a list scratched into wet clay and wonder if that's why the humans around you speak with such certainty. Everything here is catalogued, counted, claimed. But not all order is justice. You see, clearly now, stratification. A king parades past with golden cuffs. His slaves trail behind, their heads bowed. The farmers toil. The merchants smile. And above them all, priests. The interpreters of divine will. You feel the weight of it, the class system. It's not a bug in the city. It's the blueprint. Still, cities allow for miracles. You enter a temple where someone has carved the stars into the ceiling. You hear music made with harps and hollowed bones. You see irrigation systems so clever they make your modern faucet feel primitive. And most shockingly, you watch a surgeon stitch a wound with clean thread and something close to anesthesia, crushed poppy, maybe. Not bad for 3000 BCE. You pass a woman teaching her daughter how to grind pigments. She's painting not to feed the gods, but for beauty. Art for art's sake. It stuns you. In this jungle of concrete and heat and noise, humans still find time to create. But the cost is high. You see hunger in the alleyways. You step over waste in the gutters. And every now and then, you hear a distant scream followed by silence. There's crime here. Desperation. Tyranny. Cities concentrate the best and the worst of us. And no one escapes untouched. One day, a storm hits. The river rises. The outer wall collapses. Panic spreads like fire. And suddenly, all this structure, all this civilization, feels flimsy. People run, scream, fight over sacks of barley. You realize, again, how fragile the system is. One flood. One famine. One bad ruler. And the city crumbles. But as the sun returns, so do the people. They clean. Rebuild. Start again. Because something in humanity has shifted. They no longer ask, should we live this way? They ask, how do we make it last? You fall asleep on a rooftop, listening to music drifting from below. The city may be chaotic. It may be toxic. But it endures. Because it feeds something deep in your species, the hunger to gather, to build, to belong. And whether it's Babylon, Beijing, or a blinking megacity a million years from now, the DNA of urban life is already here. In this dust. In these laws. In this crowded, humming, half-beautiful maze. You wake up in a room, but it's not made of mud or stone. It hums. Soft lights blink. The air is unnaturally even. You sit up and realize, you're surrounded by machines. Screens glow. A faint electric buzz whispers through the walls. Welcome to the age of circuits, signals, and symbiosis. You're no longer walking among farmers or early kings. You're standing in a 21st century city, your city, perhaps, but with a different lens. You're not here to scroll through memes or microwave noodles. You're here to witness how technology becomes a partner in evolution. You step into the street. Cars glide by silently. Some drive themselves. You pass a teenager talking to their wrist, their phone, their AI assistant. You're startled to realize the voice on the other end sounds human. Witty. Calm. Slightly sarcastic. You wonder, briefly, if it dreams. But let's back up. The real leap didn't begin with smartphones, it started with tools, long ago. And now, you're seeing the full arc, from chipped flint to microchips. Tools used to serve the body. Now they extend the mind. You watch someone code in a cafe, fingers tapping rhythmically. Nearby, another person wears sleek glasses, augmented reality dancing across the lenses. They're not seeing the same world you are. They're seeing layers. Virtual post-its, digital tags on real people. Information pinned to reality like stickers on a fridge. This is more than invention. This is integration. The line between human and tool is blurring. Historians still argue whether this age, the digital age, is the beginning of a new evolutionary phase, or a bubble of novelty destined to burst. You walk through a tech expo, blinking as drones drift by like bees. Everyone's smiling, but you feel the tension under it. The excitement. The fear. Because with every advancement comes a question, who controls it? You overhear a conversation about facial recognition being used to monitor citizens. In another room, someone marvels at gene-editing CRISPR kits now available to anyone with a laptop and a good internet connection. Fringe thinkers whisper about technological singularity, a moment when machines surpass human intelligence and begin evolving on their own. You glance at a server rack, lights flickering like a pulse. Not yet, it seems to whisper. But soon. You notice changes in people too. Not just habits, but bodies. A woman with a cochlear implant smiles as she hears birdsong for the first time. A man controls a drone with a thought, thanks to a chip in his skull. These aren't props from a sci-fi movie. These are medical miracles. Or, depending on your view, the first steps towards something post-human. You walk past a gym, but no one's lifting rocks or sprinting. Instead, one man wears an exosuit, helping him walk after a spinal injury. Another wears smart fabrics that adjust temperature based on sweat. The body is no longer a limit. It's a platform. A child runs past holding a plush robot. It purrs when hugged. You laugh. But then the robot blinks at you. And winks. You're not sure if it's programmed to do that, or if it just learned. In a sleek apartment, you join a family dinner. One person eats tofu grown in a vat. Another takes a pill, daily nutrients, no chewing required. The table holds a screen showing everyone's biometrics, heart rate, glucose, hydration. You pretend not to notice the stress level, elevated label blinking under someone's name. The conversation turns to jobs. Or rather, the lack of them. Automation has replaced many roles. Driving. Manufacturing. Even therapy. One person jokes that their therapist is an app, and that the app actually listens better. But there's unease too. You hear someone ask, if machines do everything better, where do we fit? No one answers. Later, you step into a museum of ancient technology, things from just 100 years ago. Rotary phones. Gasoline cars. Wired headphones. They look quaint. A sign reads, from tools to partners, the rise of machine symbiosis. It hits you then. We didn't just invent tools, we invited them inside. Into our homes, our pockets, our bodies, our thoughts. You glance up at a security drone hovering overhead. A soft beep. It recognizes your face. Approves you. Moves on. You didn't consent to that scan. But then again, neither did anyone else. And still, the lights shine. The city pulses. The machines do their jobs, tirelessly. No hunger. No fatigue. No dreams. Not yet, anyway. As you lay down in a smart bed that adjusts to your heartbeat, you wonder if this is still humanity's story. Or if you're just a guest in something new, something faster, something with blinking lights and infinite memory. But the bed is warm. The air is still. And tomorrow, evolution continues, not with teeth and claws, but with code. You're underwater. No, not drowning, floating. You blink, and realize you're inside a pod. Warm liquid cradles your body. Tubes monitor your vitals. Something hums faintly in the distance. You're not sick. You're not healing. You're upgrading. Welcome to the age of human enhancement, not through tools you hold, but systems you wear, grow, or become. You rise from the pod like a sci-fi Lazarus, stepping into a world that is still Earth, but finer. Cleaner. Sharper. Around you, the people look human, mostly, but not quite. Their postures too perfect. Their eyes glint with something more than pigment. Their skin, smooth and nearly flawless, hints at synthetic grafts, reinforcements beneath the surface. You notice one woman casually tap the side of her neck. A holographic screen flickers to life in the air before her. She's adjusting her serotonin levels, like turning down the brightness on a phone. You've entered the transhuman frontier. Historians still argue whether transhumanism is inevitable or philosophical overreach. But in this moment, you're walking among a generation that no longer waits for evolution to do its thing. They rewrite the code. Gene editing is no longer experimental, it's elective. Children are no longer just born. They're sculpted. Eye color, disease resistance, even temperament. Want a child who loves math and has 20/10 vision? There's a form for that. And yet, you hear whispers in back rooms. The naturals, those who choose to remain unaltered, meet in secret. They're outliers now, viewed with both curiosity and suspicion. You overhear one enhanced man scoff, "That's the problem with them, they still have fear baked into their genome." You pass a school where students wirelessly download lessons to implants. They sit quietly, eyes closed, absorbing history, science, philosophy in minutes. You wonder how anyone fails a test now, or if failure even exists. One child peeks at you and says, "You're not tagged." You're not sure if it's an observation or a warning. And the brain, oh, the brain is different now. Neural interfaces link people to data instantly. A woman sits alone, blank-faced, but she's not alone. She's in a shared dream space, what they call the cloud mind. A network of consciousnesses exchanging memories, ideas, jokes, feelings, all in real time. It's not telepathy. It's better. But not all upgrades are digital. You meet a dancer whose joints are reinforced with liquid metal. A runner with carbon fiber tendons. A sculptor whose hands can rotate 360 degrees. Enhancement isn't just about fixing disabilities, it's about exceeding biology. You think of that old Darwin quote, "Survival of the fittest." And now, fittest might mean whoever has the latest firmware update. A fringe theory gains popularity, that the human body is merely version 1.0, and we're now in open beta for version 2.0. There are debates, heated ones, over ethics, identity, and whether you're still you after swapping out half your organs. And yet, many don't care. They love their clarity, their speed, their peace. No anxiety. No depression. No cancer. Why cling to frailty, they ask, when you can opt out? You walk past a meditation dome, where humans and AI co-practice mindfulness. Their breathing synchronized. One of the AIs, named Oren, blinks at you and says, "Would you like to let go of your inherited trauma?" It's not a joke. It's a service. But here comes the shadow, inequality. Enhancements are expensive. Some nations subsidize them. Others hoard them. A black market of rogue implants emerges. You see one teen convulsing in an alley, his neural chip misfiring from an unlicensed install. Even in the future, shortcuts come at a cost. And then, you meet a group who have gone further. They call themselves the Ascended. No bodies. Just consciousness uploaded into quantum servers. Their voices greet you from thin air. They offer you warmth, laughter, even simulated touch. They say things like, "The flesh was always the bottleneck." One invites you to join. But you hesitate. Because something in you, something old and stubborn, still likes being. You spend one last night in this new world. You stare at a sunset that someone later informs you is augmented for emotional depth. You feel awe, but then you wonder, was that real awe, or did the city tweak your dopamine again? Lying under a sky that's probably half rendered by satellites, you ask the stars, are we still human? And somewhere, deep in your rewired spine, the answer whispers back, you're something new now. You're not on Earth anymore. Don't panic. You're breathing just fine. But the sky is the wrong color, and the ground crunches with unfamiliar crystals. Gravity feels optional. You take a step and float a little farther than expected. Welcome to the age of interplanetary humanity, when the question changed from, where are we going, to, where can't we go? You're standing inside a dome, sleek and humming, nestled into the red dust of Mars. Outside, robotic arms tend to crops in sealed greenhouses. Inside, humans, very much still human, go about their daily lives. Brushing their teeth, playing music, checking weather forecasts that begin with, atmo pressure holding steady. Space colonization is no longer science fiction. It's lifestyle. You pass a classroom where kids are learning to write in both English and Martian shorthand, a compressed visual language designed for low-bandwidth communication between domes. The children wear boots with magnetized soles. One drifts off his chair and giggles. Colonies began as experiments, you learn. Habitats carved out of necessity. But now, they're homes. There are birth records. There are voting systems. There are jazz bands. Humanity has roots here now. Thin, red, gravity-warped roots. And yet, as always, expansion brings tension. Historians still argue whether space migration was an act of desperation, escaping a dying Earth, or an inevitable next step. From orbit, Earth looks peaceful. But you know better. Climate change, geopolitical collapse, and sheer population pressure all played a part in forcing this leap. Now, space isn't just a destination. It's a buffer. You drift through the colony's atrium, where people gather under synthetic sunlight. Some pray. Some dance. One artist carves statues from regolith, sculpting astronauts into the poses of ancient Greek gods. You realize, mythology is coming full circle. Olympus is a real mountain here. A fringe theory is whispered among the colonists, that long exposure to cosmic radiation, low gravity, and artificial life support is already shifting human evolution. Not in genes necessarily, but in behavior. People born here are quieter. Slower. Thoughtful in a way that feels lunar. And there are more than just Martian settlements now. You visit an orbital habitat, wheel-shaped, spinning gently to create gravity. Its corridors smell like steel and oranges. Earth is a blue marble far below. Residents call themselves exos. Not Earthlings. Not Martians. Just exos. They speak a clipped, precise dialect. Their clothes are engineered for zero-resistance movement. Their bones are thinner. One greets you with a bow, not a handshake. Culture is drifting. The human diaspora has begun. But what about the real leap? The far leap? You enter a starship docked at a Lagrange point. Its hull glistens with ice shielding. Inside, crew members run simulations for a journey that will take generations. The target, Proxima b, 40 trillion kilometers away. You pass a cryochamber. One labeled, test run, biostasis successful. Chilling. Literally. These travelers aren't tourists. They're seeds. Humanity's backup drive. They won't see Earth again. Some won't even see land. But their descendants might. And yet, even light years from home, old patterns emerge. A dispute over mining rights on Europa. A rogue AI sabotaging oxygen levels on a Venus platform. A romantic scandal between captains. Humans may evolve, but drama is eternal. You sit in a ship's viewing bay, stars drifting like snow. Someone beside you hums an old Earth song, modified slightly for the rhythm of zero-G. It's haunting and beautiful. And you wonder, do constellations mean the same thing from here? One astronaut tells you, Earth is our past. But it's not our limit. Her eyes shine with something not entirely biological. An upgrade? Or just wonder. You spend a night watching simulated thunderstorms on a domed ceiling. A child asks if rain really feels wet. You realize, some of these colonists have never been rained on. Never seen a tree. Never heard leaves rustle. And yet they laugh. They play. They write poems about moons you've never heard of. This isn't just survival. It's flourishing, replanted in vacuum and soil and code. As the artificial sun dims, you float toward your quarters. Your reflection catches in a curved window. You're thinner. Your hair drifts. Your bones feel hollow. Are you still human? You touch the glass, staring into the void. And the void, for once, stares back, with curiosity. You're in a forest, but it's not made of trees. It's data. The leaves shimmer like glass. The ground pulses beneath your feet. You've entered the digital dimension, and no, this isn't a metaphor. This is where human consciousness has gone beyond flesh and blood, into pure experience. The interface was subtle at first, screens, voice commands, neural links. But then came full immersion. And now, you're walking through a simulation so detailed it makes Earth feel low-res. The birds chirp, the breeze hums, but it's all code. You can change the sky with a thought. Pause time with a blink. Want wings? You grow them. Welcome to the age of synthetic reality, where people live not just with machines, but inside them. You meet a group gathered around a fire, though no logs burn. One man, glowing slightly, says he hasn't been corporeal in 30 years. A woman in translucent skin claims to be running 4 simulations at once. Her smile never falters. You ask where her body is. She shrugs. Storage, probably. Historians still argue whether uploading consciousness is a form of death or rebirth. Philosophers, meanwhile, have nearly given up. Because here, identity is fluid. You see one being split into 2 versions of themselves for a debate. Then they merge again, giggling. There are no borders here. No gravity, no language barriers. One being sings in color. Another paints memories as buildings. Love happens instantly. So does heartbreak, coded, choreographed, archived. You try to speak but realize words are optional. You can think your message into the shared space. Everyone understands. It's like the deepest dream, but lucid. Controlled. And here's the twist, not everyone uploaded fully. Many left a shadow self in the real world, backups of backups. If something goes wrong in meatspace, the digital self lives on. If the server fails, a physical drone can reprint the body. Some call it resurrection. Others call it redundancy. A fringe theory flickers through your mind, that humanity didn't upload into machines. The machines were always uploading us, slowly, line by line. That every tweet, selfie, and voice note was training this place to be our next home. You visit a memory garden. Each tree holds a moment, first kiss, last laugh, the smell of your grandmother's kitchen. You touch a branch, and feel the moment. Fully. Embodied. Time bends. But of course, not all is utopian. Even in a world with no death, people find ways to break each other. Someone hacks another's memories. Someone spams another with unwanted sensations. Someone creates a heaven that turns into a private prison. Consent becomes the currency. And forgiveness, the firewall. You meet a digital ghost, a remnant of someone who was deleted but left a trace. She drifts, half aware, muttering lines of corrupted poetry. It's tragic, yes. But also weirdly, human. Still, there's beauty. A choir of 1,000 minds sings in harmonized thought. A thunderstorm made of symphonies rolls over a floating city. A child programs a whale out of sadness and rides it through clouds. Anything is possible here, except forgetting what you once were. You ask someone, do you miss Earth? They laugh, a cascading sound like wind chimes. What part? The pain or the limits? And then, softer, sometimes, the sun sets. You realize no matter how perfect this world becomes, nostalgia still sneaks in. Someone recreates New York, gritty, flawed, beautiful. Someone else simulates rain just to feel lonely again. Even paradise gets heavy without contrast. Before you leave, you ask yourself, is this evolution or escape? You don't answer. You log out. Back in your enhanced body, if it can still be called that, you take a deep breath. Real air. Real lungs. Heavier than code. It grounds you. Reminds you that being human was never just about thinking. It was about feeling. And now, you can do both, in any realm you choose. You're standing at the edge of a lake, but the water isn't natural. It's engineered. Each molecule optimized for purity, temperature, and even light reflection. You crouch, touch it, and your fingers shimmer. This isn't the future we stumbled into. This is the one humanity designed, cell by cell, atom by atom. You've entered the age of bioengineering as art, science, and daily life. The messy randomness of evolution has been gently nudged aside. Life now comes with sliders, toggles, and patch notes. Around the lake, trees sway with luminous leaves, solar chlorophyll hybrids that photosynthesize and power nearby homes. A bird soars overhead, feathers pulsing with faint neon as it sings in frequencies that double as Wi-Fi signals. You're not in a forest. You're in a living network. You approach a homegrown, not built, from coral-based scaffolds and self-shaping vines. It adjusts its walls based on sunlight and the resident's mood. Inside, a woman greets you. Her skin is patterned like a panther's, not dyed, but grown that way. Decorative DNA. She offers you tea brewed from a flower species invented last week. Historians still argue whether synthetic biology marks a continuation of evolution or its total replacement. Either way, natural selection has taken the back seat. Now, human selection drives the bus. You pass a child with eyes like deep sapphires. They glow faintly in the dark. The parent mentions they've been edited for night vision. She's afraid of the dark, they say, so we gave her less darkness. Elsewhere, crops no longer grow, they generate. You enter a vertical farm where fruit forms in midair, suspended by magnetic roots and guided hormones. There's no soil. No pests. Just perfect strawberries, hovering like jewels. And animals? Some are real. Some are synthetic. Some are impossible. You watch a household pet scurry by, it's part fox, part octopus, and fully legal. Its name is Snub, and it responds to 6 languages and a gentle telepathic cue. But not everyone embraces this living future. You meet a group of Earth originals, humans who reject gene mods, eat only heritage crops, and still use soap that smells like 2025. They believe the more we change life, the more we lose its meaning. One of them asks you gently, what happens when you can edit sorrow out of a person? A good question. Because yes, scientists now tweak emotional baselines. Depression, anxiety, even grief, they're manageable at the molecular level. But so is ambition. So is joy. Emotions are becoming sliders, not storms. A fringe theory suggests that as we optimize life, we may accidentally extinguish desire. If everyone is healthy, beautiful, and content, what drives innovation? What fuels rebellion, risk, art? Still, there's something undeniably seductive about this new Eden. You visit a childbirth center where new life is engineered in warm crystal cocoons. No pain. No complications. Embryos are given nudges, stronger immune systems, cleaner metabolism, resilience to radiation. You watch a couple make choices on a glowing interface, empathy level, musical inclination, athletic potential. They don't see it as unnatural. They see it as love. And there are hybrids now, plants that learn, animals that speak basic words, humans with photosynthetic tattoos. Species barriers blur. You hear rumors of someone who successfully merged with a mycelium network and now thinks in forest logic. You step outside and breathe air that's been cultured, biologically filtered to optimize calmness and oxygenation. Birds sing notes that trigger dopamine. Flowers bloom in sympathy with your heartbeat. It's beautiful. But also, curated. You meet a biologist who refers to Earth as version 3.4. He jokes that future updates will include underwater cities and whale song dialects. He's only half kidding. And yet, you feel a quiet ache. Not nostalgia, but unease. Every blade of grass here is perfect. Every sunset symmetrical. There's no wild left. No rot. No randomness. You begin to miss weeds. You miss the ugly. At night, the sky glows, not from stars, but from orbiting organisms seeded into space to reflect light artfully. Even constellations have been redesigned. Someone renamed Orion to the Code Father. You lie down in grass that adjusts for spine alignment. You stare up and wonder, are we gods now? Or just careful editors of a story too big to finish? And the stars say nothing. But they glow in sync with your breathing. You open your eyes to silence. Not the absence of sound, but a kind of stillness so vast it presses gently against your ears. There's no wind, no buzzing, no footsteps. Just a faint pulse, not from your heart, but from the earth itself. You've arrived in the age of planetary consciousness. Humanity hasn't just changed the world. It's merged with it. You step onto soft ground that isn't quite soil. It's living infrastructure, an engineered mesh of mycelium, nanofibers, and sensory roots. As you walk, the surface responds. It notes your gait, your pressure, your presence. Somewhere in the network, this information joins a billion other footsteps, patterns woven into a planetary heartbeat. You're not separate from nature anymore. You're inside it. Every tree you pass is connected. Every stone subtly aware. It's not magic. It's biosentience. A quiet agreement between technology and biology, to collaborate, not compete. You kneel by a flower and whisper. It opens, not from sunlight, but from recognition. Historians still argue whether this merger was an evolution of the internet or the fulfillment of ancient animist dreams. Some call it the Internet of Living Things. Others just call it the hum. You meet someone called a listener. Their role? To interpret signals from the landscape. A sudden bloom in algae. A chemical whisper from moss. A shift in electromagnetic frequencies beneath a mountain. They lean down, press their ear to the ground, and simply listen. The person smiles at you and says, "The earth speaks clearer now that we've stopped shouting over it." You walk through a city, if you can still call it that. There are no buildings, just organisms with addresses. Giant fruiting domes. Hollowed-out biocrystals. Tree canopies that unfold into theaters at night. Everything alive. Everything symbiotic. You pause beside a pond filled with singing fish, each one tuned to local mood metrics. A ripple of joy travels through them as two people nearby embrace. You smile, and the pond hums a harmony in response. It's surreal. It's soothing. But you notice something deeper. Humanity, as it once was, has changed. There are fewer people, fewer individuals. Instead, communities blend their thoughts, their experiences, sometimes their very consciousness. They call it the mesh. You join a circle of people sitting in a grove, connected by bioluminescent tendrils. You don't speak. You just feel. Their joy. Their grief. Their questions. Yours dissolve in return. A fringe theory says we've reached what early philosophers might have called the noosphere, a layer of global mind encircling the planet. Not metaphorically. Literally. It's not utopia. Disagreements still happen. But now, conflict feels less like war, and more like weather. Something that rolls in, swirls, teaches, and moves on. You wander into a memory grove, a place where old earth is preserved. Real oak trees. Real squirrels. Real mess. People come here to remember unpredictability. Mud. Allergies. Surprise rain. One child sneezes, grins, and says, "That was amazing." Her parent hands her a dandelion. Blow on this. It's chaos in seed form. And yet, in the middle of this harmony, there are rebels. A group who reject the mesh. They want privacy. Disconnection. Even boredom. They've built a small enclave, no sensors, no enhancements, no shared thought. Just books, fireplaces, and awkward silence. You visit. It feels alien. And strangely human. You talk to a man there who says, integration is beautiful. But so is forgetting for a while. So is not knowing what everyone feels. You sip herbal tea and nod. He adds, solitude is an endangered experience. Outside, the wind shifts. Or maybe it's the trees breathing together. You can't tell anymore. The planetary network doesn't just monitor. It responds. A region low on joy receives extra music through wind-chimed canopies. A place feeling unrest gets a spontaneous bloom of calming herbs in its air. It's like being parented by Gaia, with algorithms. But here's the twist, the system doesn't control people. It reflects them. And in doing so, nudges them gently. Like a forest guiding a deer's path with fallen branches. At night, you sit beneath a starlit canopy that adjusts its transparency based on the constellations you most admire. Someone lies beside you and whispers, "We're not separate anymore. We never were. We just forgot." You close your eyes. The earth breathes. And you breathe with it. You're inside yourself. No, not metaphorically, literally. You hover in what looks like a cathedral made of blood vessels and light. Red rivers spiral beneath you. Glowing neurons arc above like galaxies. And standing at the center is, you. A perfect, living map of your body, interactive, editable, transparent. This is the age of inner mastery. Not just medicine. Not just health. But conscious, continuous self-sculpting. You blink, and your internal systems display like augmented dashboards, hormone levels, cell division rates, even thought patterns rendered in elegant holograms. Your liver is glowing green. That's good. Your dopamine is pulsing blue, very good. Around you, people tend not to talk about their mood or vibe anymore. They say things like, "My cortisol spiked at lunch but I've regulated it." Or, "I just tuned my dream cycles for creative recall tonight." Historians still argue whether this level of internal transparency is empowerment, or obsession. But either way, the guessing game is over. There are no more mysteries about why you feel sad or tired or full of joy. You see it. You adjust it. Like tuning an instrument, except the instrument is you. A fringe theory says consciousness only arose in the first place because humans didn't fully understand themselves. That self-mystery created the ego. Now that mystery is gone, is the ego next? You're guided by a wellness architect, a kind of personal body software designer. She wears robes of fiber-optic silk and carries a sculpting wand. Together, you stand before your internal model. She asks, gently, "Would you like to reframe how you process grief?" You pause. And say yes. It doesn't erase your pain. But it guides you through it, neural rehearsal, biochemical storytelling, memory remixing. The past becomes soft, not erased, just resung in a new key. People here don't age the way they used to. Not because they're immortal, but because aging has been reshaped. Telomeres are refreshed like charging a battery. Bones remineralize automatically. Hair color is a slider on a wall panel. You pass someone who's 140 years old and looks like an athlete in their prime. They laugh like someone who's seen everything and still chooses joy. You visit a dream salon, where people craft experiences for sleep, not just to rest, but to learn. One woman dreams of speaking ancient Sumerian fluently. Another practices deep empathy by reliving her partner's childhood, neural playback turned training. You ask a technician, "Do people still fear death?" He thinks. Then shrugs. Not like before. Now it's more like a migration. Indeed, some choose to exit, not from despair, but completion. They've explored every mental horizon. They've mapped every emotional galaxy. They leave with calm, their bodies folding into stardust, sometimes literally, thanks to funerary nanotech that launches ashes into custom star clusters. Yet the human soul hasn't been sterilized. You visit an art sanctuary where someone paints only with skin-generated pigments that change color based on the artist's feelings. A song plays on a loop, it was grown from a neural hiccup someone had while watching the moon. Beauty remains. Even when biology is editable, mystery finds cracks to bloom through. And not everyone chooses perfection. Some opt into imperfections, randomized moments of forgetfulness, sadness, surprise. One man proudly declares, "I asked my system to give me grief week." He's journaling in a meadow of data-woven poppies. You laugh. Because yeah, that's very human. At the end of the day, you lie on a bed that softly synchronizes with your heartbeat. You whisper a question to the dark. If I can know everything about myself, will I still be me? And somewhere, in the gentle pulse of your cells, your bones, your quiet electric thoughts, something answers. Yes. Just, a version that's finally listening. You're surrounded by strangers, but you've never felt so seen. Not in a performative, post-your-best-self kind of way. Seen in the way a mirror might gaze at you if it could feel, with empathy, memory, and the full weight of shared experience. You've entered the age of collective memory. The great cloud of human knowledge, once scattered across stone tablets, hard drives, and internet scrolls, has coalesced into something living. And it doesn't just store our history, it wears it. You walk through what appears to be a museum. But there are no plaques. No ropes. Instead, the exhibits walk with you. When you step near a figure sculpted from flowing light, it whispers in your language, your tone, your rhythm. This was the fall of ancient Rome, it says, but felt like a missed heartbeat across the world. You feel the collapse, not just as a timeline, but as grief in your chest. This isn't just history, it's experiential inheritance. Children now grow up not just learning facts, but feeling them. They relive coral reef collapse, the joy of the moon landing, the dull ache of 20th-century loneliness in traffic jams and fluorescent lighting. It's empathy at planetary scale. Historians still argue whether this shared archive promotes understanding or erases nuance. But you're here now, and it's hard to argue with what you feel, a tide of other lives inside your own bones. You meet someone whose job is curator of emotional history. She sculpts sequences of global memory, curating moments of laughter from 12,000 years ago, bottling them into crystalline droplets others can taste. Yes, taste. Joy is tangy. Regret is smooth and cold. Revolution tastes like copper and rain. A fringe theory says this whole network, this memory web, is itself sentient. That by layering so much of humanity together, we've birthed a new consciousness. Not God. Not AI. Just, us, finally aware of ourselves. In full. You climb a staircase that sings old protest chants as you rise. Each step reverberates with a footstep taken in defiance somewhere in history, Tiananmen, Soweto, Selma, Paris. You pause. The air is thick with meaning. Not just knowledge, meaning. In a garden shaped like ancient alphabets, you sit with an elder who remembers being alive before the merge. Back then, he says, we had to ask for stories. Now we just, become them. You wander a dream library, where narratives are not read but absorbed. You spend 1 hour as a Syrian mother in 2015, 1 hour as a monk in 1100, and one timeless moment as an unknown teenager writing a song on a rooftop in 2094. You cry. Not for sorrow, but for sheer capacity. The human heart, it turns out, can stretch far wider than you ever guessed. Still, not everyone wants this level of connectedness. You meet a memory minimalist who opts out, living with only their own life's memories. Sometimes, they say, your own scars are enough to learn from. But they're rare now. Most people choose to carry the weight, because it's not just weight. It's texture. Before you leave, you walk through a corridor called the Firsts. It pulses gently, displaying humanity's firsts, first laughter, first love, first lie, first music. You touch the glowing wall as a heartbeat rises through it. You realize it's your own. And just before you exit, a voice whispers, not in your ear, but in your memory. Every moment you've ever lived is here. And so is everyone you haven't. You step into the next room, changed. Not alone. Never again. You awaken into a sky that no longer ends. Above you, constellations drift, rearranged by human will. Below, the ground pulses gently with warmth. But you're not on a planet, not really. You're aboard something vast, something alive, something human-made and universe-spanning, a vessel city. Not a ship, not a colony. A migration. You've entered the age of post-Earth civilization. This is where the story of human evolution no longer fits in chapters, but waves. The old biological shell, flesh, bone, instinct, still lingers. But it's just one option among many. You walk down a corridor where one person has no body, existing only as flickering light across the walls. Another greets you with arms made of crystal lattice, eyes like supernovae. Another, tired of form altogether, appears only as music. You are still human. So are they. But humanity now wears 1,000 faces. Historians still argue whether we lost Earth by neglect or chose to transcend it. The truth is, Earth is still there, preserved, tended, loved, but it no longer defines the species. The stars do. Space is no longer cold or lonely. It's home. And home has many rooms. You stroll through one, a zero-gravity concert hall where sound is shaped into architecture. In another, a garden grown inside a black hole's time bubble, where plants bloom backward, and meditation lasts decades in subjective minutes. You ask someone nearby, how far have we gone? They smile. Distance isn't the point anymore. Indeed, travel has changed. Wormholes, quantum leaps, mental projection. People now move between realities like stepping through puddles. Some choose to stay rooted, to planets, to families, to the rhythms of tradition. Others flow like streams, touching dozens of lifetimes in a year. You attend a gathering of beings once called humans, now collectively known as the continuum. Their minds sync, not in unison, but in harmony. A chorus of thought. A song of shared direction. You hear stories, of stars sung into birth, of galaxies healed after cosmic storms, of empathy as diplomacy among species that once terrified us. A fringe theory now flickers like folklore, that evolution isn't upward, but inward. That all this, the tech, the stars, the augmentation, was just a roundabout journey back to understanding ourselves. Not power. Not knowledge. Just awareness. You begin to feel it. Not awe. Not fear. Something quieter. Completion. And yet, even now, there's mystery. You float near the observation rim, a curved window opening to the void. But this void isn't empty. It watches back. Stars shimmer with patterns you don't understand. Dark matter pulses faint messages. In the hush of the cosmos, you realize, evolution never ends. It just softens, slows, changes keys. A child drifts beside you, small, translucent, bioluminescent like a sea creature. They wave, then ask, "Are you new?" You nod. They smile. There's so much more. You'll see. As they drift away, your heart, still yours, beats in its familiar rhythm. Anchored. Curious. Behind you, someone laughs. Ahead, light bends into impossible shapes. Above, a nebula unfurls like a sleeping giant stretching its arms. And below, somewhere still, Earth spins. Quiet, ancient, not forgotten. You breathe in. And breathe out. And you continue. And now, you rest. The stars blur, their edges softening like candlelight behind frosted glass. The hum of progress fades into a gentle whisper, echoing through everything you've seen, bodies reimagined, minds shared, worlds grown from soil and light. It's a lot, isn't it? 1,000,000 years of change, stitched into a single night of wonder. Your breathing slows. The future is no longer rushing toward you, it's cradling you, wrapping itself around your thoughts like a warm blanket. You've walked through evolution not as a timeline, but as a feeling. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, humanity isn't just surviving, it's becoming. There's peace in that. You feel the thrum of a planetary heart beneath you. The memory of Earth still lingers in your muscles, the gravity of it, the scent of rain, the weight of sunlight on your skin. You haven't forgotten. You've evolved with it. Through sorrow and invention, through silence and song. So let it go, gently. Let the cities of light drift behind your eyes. Let the forests of data fade to mist. Let the stars stop asking questions. You've seen enough for now. Tomorrow, there will be more. More worlds. More selves. More gentle revolutions. But tonight? Tonight, you are still. Whole. Human. Sleep now. Float on stardust and breath. You've earned it.